Hi, good evening. Hello. Hi, welcome. Thank you, Lucia. Maryland. I did turn all the microphones off because this way connection works more smoothly. And I will ask you also to turn the cameras off. I'm so sorry. I'd like to see your faces, but it's just because this way connection works much better that I did it. I see people from all over the places as always. Greece, it's probably the first time. Yeah, it's really from all over the world. Snowy St. Louis, USA. Here in Rome, Italy is 8 p.m. It's actually a very warm day and crazily beautiful and sunny. Not anymore, but I mean it was. Welcome to all of you. I see people from Europe, like New York, Australia, everywhere. Snowing and cold. In Italy, the coldest month is March. That is, in fact, when we go for skiing, commonly in the Alps or the Apennines. So it's coming. Yes, sure. We think we live in the best city in the world. I mean, not really the best city, the most beautiful one. Nothing works in Rome. So it's beautiful, but not that practical, I would say. So welcome. I was waiting just a few seconds because we had a lot of people who subscribed for this tour. So I was just, I like to tell you how everything works. I did turn all the microphones off and I explain you is for connection. I see cameras on, please turn them off. Because this way, again, connection works more smoothly. Also, I will close the chat during the talk and I will reopen the chat at the end. This is so that we don't really cut the talk, but I will save 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. So I will give you the chance to ask me something, of course, at the end of the talk. Perfect. So then, you know, for people who don't know me, who didn't join me in other talks, I am from Rome. I am a local here. I am an archaeologist, so this is what I do for a living. I do tours, real tours and virtual tours like today. And it's like, I think, easy to fall in love with ruins when you grow up here because it's what we have all around. So I spent all my weekends in the Colosseum or, I mean, in archaeological areas instead of going to the parks. So I think it's why I like this profession. I'm also a licensed tour guide in Rome. To be a tour guide in Rome, you have to go through a very difficult exam so that you know everything about the city. And so if you will ever come to Rome, please just be sure that you will do a tour with a licensed tour guide. So don't really jump into these groups that, like, they gather outside the monuments, because these are people who commonly don't have any idea of what they talk about. So let's actually start the presentation. I hope you will like it. For any problem, I will actually get back to you. But again, I will close the chat. Let's do it. Perfect. Just before I close it, can you please just write down if you can see everything, if you can see my screen and the presentation? Thank you so much, Jamina. Thank you to all of you. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So today we will talk about, I think, a very famous politician of Rome. In Rome, you can really visit the sites of Caesar's birth and death. While strolling the winding streets of the city, you can be in the locations where the most important episodes of his life took place. Today we will be on his footsteps, or we should say on his sandals, through the city of Rome. So I will take you to like specific sites. I will show you pictures of the areas that you can so visit for real if you will be ever here in Rome, and I hope you will come soon. And I will show you obviously also reconstructions of the most important monuments that are associated with these like facts of Caesar's life. For sure, Caesar lived an exceptional and extraordinary life, and this name is the most famous one in history. Even a salad and a month, they have been named after Julius Caesar, while the story of the salad is not true, in the sense that the salad is named after this guy that is a chef that is called Caesar, but it's not Julius we will talk about today. July is truly named after Julius Caesar, and it was the month of his birth. Before 46 BC, when Julius introduced a new calendar in Rome, and we will talk about it, that month that was called Quintilis, because it was the fifth month of the Roman calendar, and the first calendar of Rome counted 10 months, the first being March. The names of the last 6 months were taken from the word for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in Latin. So Quintilis was the name of the fifth month, and that will become July. The name of the 6th month was Sextilis, and that will become August. And then September, it probably recalls you the word root 7 from like septus, and then October is like 8, November is 9, and December from Decum is like 10, the 10th month of the day. So at the time of Julius, the calendar was based on the lunar phases, and the year counted 354 days instead of 365 days. So because of this like big change that he introduced, a name was called after him. It happened in 46 BC, as I told you, and this new calendar was suggested to him by a friend of Cleopatra, whose name was Sosigene. So he was an astronomer from Egypt who came to Rome with the entourage of Cleopatra. But we will be back to this, fine? Okay. So Julius Caesar was born on the 12th or 13th, we're not really sure, of 100 BC, and he belonged to one of the most prestigious families of Rome. That was the Julia family. My name, Julia, is so common in Rome. I mean, it's nothing original. All my best friends, they're named Julia. That makes a lot of confusion when we go out together. You know, it's like Julia 1, Julia 2, Julia 3. And it comes from the name of this like famous Roman family. The Julia family at the age of Julius was living a time of political decline. Since 2 centuries prior to like Caesar's birth, only a few of its members had been entitled consul, and that was the highest annually elected office of the Roman Republic. And this explains why the family was living in the most infamous district of Rome, the so-called Suburra. I don't know, you have probably heard about it because there was also like a TV series that took the name from this bad neighborhood of Rome. This was a best residential area for the lower class of Rome. There was also a notorious red light district. Maybe this is where he got his appetite, like, but we will talk about it. And anyway, in those years when Julius was living his adolescence, this is what the area he lived by, it did look like. The Suburra, as I told you, was an area for poor people. Think of multi-floors houses made of bricks with the interior walls made of wood. And people, they shared the very small bedrooms, a few times with not even windows. And they did cook with real fire, with like braziers inside these like houses. So you can imagine how many times they had fires. And so it was also like a risky area where to be. Think that in ancient Rome, it was totally different from what it is today. Today we buy, like we prefer to buy top floors, or I mean, we look for windows and view. The view was not even something to consider in ancient Rome. It was more expensive to live downstairs, like first floor, because you were close to the most important facilities, and I mean toilets, like public toilets. They were all displayed at the street level, and like with not elevators, it was easier to run away, to escape in case of fires. So to live first floor was more expensive than to live top floors. That is totally different from what it is today. And this area that I just described corresponds to this part. So this is the map of Rome, of course. When you come to Rome, you will for sure want to do a tour of the Colosseum. And this is the Colosseum. And this area that I am describing is pretty close, you know. It's called the Monte. It's much bigger than what I like marked is all this one. And it's also very close to the ruins, I mean, to the ancient Roman Forum. So you can imagine the view that you can enjoy from those houses right here, from the rooftops of this area that today we call Monte, because it's hilly. You can see everything, even the Colosseum. This is the reconstruction of what it looked like in ancient Rome. It was very condensed. At the age of Julius, population was close to 1 million. So it was a lot of people living within the walls. Rome had not that much space, and streets, they could be 60 centimeters large. So like the size of my shoulders. There was no space in between the houses. This is what the Suburra that looked like. But Monti, this same neighborhood today, is super expensive. And let me tell you, even pretty trendy nowadays, like all the young folks of Rome, they want to live there. And it's just behind the ancient Roman Forum. This is an incredible view that you can get once you have access to this site and you climb the Palatine Hill. That's a terrace that like overlooks the Forum, and you can see the ancient downtown of Rome from that one. So please be sure, if you have access to this site, to go all the way up to the hill and to look down, because you see everything. And so Monti or Suburra is just here, you know, where you see the arrow. It's fascinating because it got separated from the ancient Roman Forum thanks to this wall that was erected by Augustus. That is a fire wall that was dividing the ancient city from, the poor area, because the flames, they could eventually spin out of control and come over, you know, the public section of Rome. So this was pulled up by Augustus to separate the city of marble from the city of bricks that was just behind it. And it's a wall that still perfectly stands. That was built the 1st century BC. So this is the ancient Suburra, and this is Rione Monti, the actual name of this neighborhood. And you can really see the shape and these streets, these like narrow roads that made this part of Rome back then. You can easily imagine what it looked like. This is something that you will really understand when you will visit the city of Rome. We commonly say that Rome is a lasagna, you know, that's such an easy like way to picture these many layers that made the city of Rome. So everything that you see in Rome was built right above ancient ruins. That means that underneath those houses, like the ones used by the people to live nowadays, we have those like insulae, so those multi-floor houses from ancient Rome. They just use them as foundations, and that explains why every time that we build something new, it takes ages, you know, to be done, because we have to stop the works and to start an archaeological excavation. So this is the beginning of like Julius' life. Anyway, in those years when Caesar was living his adolescence in Rome, two political groups sharply opposed each other. One is the Populares and one is the Optimates. The Populares, they supported the rights of the plebs, so the poor people, against the dominant aristocracy of Rome. The Optimates sought to protect the privileges of the aristocracy instead. And this harsh contrast eventually led to civil war. So now the Populares, they were led by the general Gaius Marius, and the Optimates, they were led by Lucius Cornelius Sulla. And Rome was an unsafe city, too many crimes, too many assassins in the streets of the city, kind of like trying to kill the rivals, or the enemies. So at the age of 16, when Julius was 16, his life changed abruptly. We have to consider what was the connection of Julius with the Populares. I told you that the leader of this group was Gaius Marius, and Gaius Marius was basically the uncle of Julius Caesar, you see. And so he was really connected with this political party. And at the age of 16, his life changed abruptly, as I was saying, when his uncle died and he lost his like support, you know. He suddenly became the head of the family, and in the midst of this like civil war, he married the daughter of one of his uncle's allies. The name of this man was Cornelius Cinna, and the name of this woman was Cornelia Cinna. He strengthened his like alliance with the Populares, with this like party. And Cornelia and Julius had a daughter, Julia. She will be very important for the next chapters of this episode. So just remember that he had a daughter from Cornelia by Cornelia. And in 82 BC, Sulla was appointed the dictator in Rome under a law that for the first time did not really limitate, did not regulate the term, you know, like the duration of his dictatorship. And for centuries, the dictators had served only in times of extreme danger to the city and only for 6 months period. So, although a dictator would lay down his power as soon as crisis had passed, commonly this is the term for a dictatorship. So, once Sulla was proclaimed dictator, like in perpetuity, that was something totally like risky for the Republic, and in total control of Rome. Sulla drew a list of people whom he wished to be killed. Every person contained in the so-called proscription list was an outlaw who might be killed and first confiscated of his property. And it is estimated that some 40 senators and approximately 1,600 equestrians got killed on this occasion. For equestrian, I mean a person who can afford a horse. People who could buy horses and lands. So it's middle class in Rome. Julius was Marius' nephew and Cinna's son-in-law. And so he was one of the Sulla's targets. Sulla ordered Julius to divorce Cornelia, but he refused to repudiate his beloved wife, even if he was aware that this like disobedience would cost his life. And Sulla inserted Caesar's name in the proscription list and promised a reward to like anyone who would catch him dead or alive. So during this presentation, I'd like to tell you a few like fun facts, a few like episodes of Caesar's life that we cannot really locate in Rome, but that helped us to imagine the personality of this person, you know, like Caesar became a fugitive, but he was caught by one of Sulla's men in the countryside of Rome. And in order to remain free, Caesar paid the bounty himself, convincing the hitman that with accepting the money, he would pocket them, like he would pocket the bounty without the effort to bring Caesar back to Rome. And he was able to buy his freedom. So at the end, Sulla spared his life. I mean, he gave away, but he remained quite skeptical. He was not really sure that was the right decision. And so it seems that he quoted something like, I will spare him, but be warned, in this young man, I see many Mariuses, like many of his uncles. Anyway, Rome was not more safe for Julius anyway. And it was better for him to leave Rome. And he served in the army, and he was sent to Asia as an ambassador to convince the king of Bithynia, Bithynia is in Turkey, to raise a fleet for Rome. But actually, when he was staying in Bithynia, a sort of like rumor of a sexual relationship between the two men surfaced, leading to the title for Caesar of Queen of Bithynia. an allegation which Caesar's enemies made use of later in his life. Even during the triumph, a popular verse began that was like Caesar led the Gauls, like the French tribes, law. Nicomedes, that was the name of this king, led Caesar law, suggesting that Caesar was the receiving partner of this relationship. That is something that was not really well accepted in Rome. I mean, homosexuality was something that was absolutely well seen in Rome and pretty common, but that is precisely the aspect that was not accepted instead. It's actually very likely that Julius was just such a good politician that he was capable to convince Nicomedes, this king, to, leave his fleet to Rome, you know? When he was 25, he traveled across the Aegean, like the Aegean Sea, but the vessel was attacked by pirates, and most of the crew was captured, and the survivors were like sold as slaves. Especially for the ones born in noble families, a high ransom was demanded. And when the pirates found out that Julius belonged to a very wealthy family, did ask for 20 talents, that's silver coins, in exchange for Julius' life. At that time, that was an incredible amount of money, an absurd price. But Julius Caesar was a very proud and fearless man, told the pirates that they should demand a bit more, even more coins in exchange for his life. And the pirates did accept this cash offer, but when Julius was finally free, he set up a fleet, and he was obviously back for revenge. And the pirates who had kidnapped him, he defeated them in a battle, and he had them crucified. He had all the survivors crucified as public punishment of what happened. This fact increased Caesar's fame. His name was already popular in the streets of Rome. But I mean, the rumors of his like temper, of his behavior, came to the ear of the Romans. Then last thing, he served in the army again, this time in Spain, where he became the administrator of the territory controlled by Rome. Spain was controlled by Rome back then. One day, Julius decided to get to know the city of Cadiz better. And after traveling some distance, he found Cadiz, and he found the statue of Alexander the Great in that city. As he approached the feet of the statue, Julius felt an enormous torment and began crying. This is what the historians tell us. He thought he was 33 years old and he had conquered anything great yet. On the contrary, Alexander the Great, at that same age, had already conquered the empire, the world. And at that moment, Caesar swore he would not rest until he was equal to Alexander the Great and his conquest. So Julius had this like big dream of becoming Alexander the Great and to do what he had done few years before. Alexander died in 323 BC. This is so important, so at least you have an idea of the time range I am talking about. So Julius achieved more and more political positions. He wanted to be Pontifex Maximus, that is the highest priest of Roman religion, is the chief priest of Roman society. He spent all his fortune for this political campaign, and when he got it in 63 BC, he moved from the Suburra, that's the poor area I described before, right to the middle of the ancient Roman Forum, where the chief priest had his house. And so he actually moved to the downtown of Rome. So I told you that the very first area where he was living is this one, and now he moved right in the middle of the city center of Rome. That's precisely what you visit when you do the Colosseum tour. That's the ancient Roman Forum. So the site of the most important basilicas and temples and banks of Rome. It's where people spend every single day of their life. Think that today we can do everything from home. We can even talk about Julius Caesar in Rome with Zoom, but back then it was not the case. So people, they were forced, to go to this area for shopping, for religion, for politics, but even for like socializing and for gossip, if they had to know about new decisions or taxes to pay. That was the way. They went to this area and they did listen to people yelling, announcing new decisions. And so now Julius was living right here, like in this spot. His ambition was to be entitled consul, and in order to run for that office, he was actually called, he needed this first position of this sort of like political ladder, this like sequence of political offices. That was the first step to be entitled the consul. That was instead the highest level of this political ladder. What does remain of this house? Not that much. This is the Temple of Vesta, and these are the ruins of the so-called Res Publica, so the public house of the chief priest of Rome. I can show you what happened, obviously, in this like time life, that he got married with another woman, that's Pompeia. So it's the second marriage of Julius, and this is what it looked like, it's like right in the middle of everything. Why did I mention this this like second marriage of Julius? Because on those years, that's like 62 BC, during the second marriage to his wife Pompeia, this marriage ended up with a scandal. One year, during the women-only festival of the so-called Bona Dea, so like the goddess of like fertility, a man named Claudius snuck into the celebrations dressed up as a woman, apparently to meet Pompeia, And after authorities, like after the guards of Julius caught Claudius and charged him with like sacrilege, Caesar punished his wife and he got divorced. So that's how we know that everything happened in his place, right? Because of this scandal that I described. So he divorced Pompeia almost on the spot, and it's actually because of this Claudius who snuck into the house dressed up like a woman. So I was saying that his ambition was to be entitled consul, and in order to run for that office, he allied himself with two very powerful men of Rome. One is like Marcus Licinius Crassus, this one known for being the richest man in Rome, and second is Pompey the Great, the most successful general of Rome with many legions at his disposal. So basically, he was rich, he was powerful. Best combo ever. And by 60 BC, Caesar was so powerful that Roman satirists referred to the first year of his consulship, as like the year of Julius and Caesar. Why am I telling you this? To make you understand that during the Republican age in Rome, Rome was ruled by two consuls, so that no one of the two could take over the other. He was capable to be entitled the consul in 60 BC, but his colleague at that time is not even mentioned in the sources, because Julius was taking every single decision by himself. He came to sign a sort of informal alliance that is known as the first Triumvirate of Rome. and it was cemented by the marriage of Pompey to Julius' daughter, Julia. You remember, she was the daughter of Cornelia, the very first wife of Julius, right? And this like informal alliance is known as the first triumvirate because that means three men. What happened was that they divided the so-called Republic of Rome into sort of three sections, and they controlled the different areas, you know. So it's in on those years that Caesar was able to make himself as the governor of Gaul, that's France, you know. I mean, when he was elected the consul, he obtained great power. He could even be immune from the law of the city, so he couldn't be judged. And in 54 BC, Caesar left to France, that's right here. Why? To secure his position, you know. He was at the head of 4 legions. It's 25,000 soldiers that he basically controlled. And during this consulship, Caesar had secured his assignment as proconsul to Gaul. This like Gallic campaign was long and complex, but Julius gained loyalty, respect, and trust of the soldiers, while people of Rome received news of these like victories and success. You will probably remember, you know, the war against the Gauls from like school. And when he was in Gaul and Britain, things fell apart in Rome and a new civil war broke up. So like Julius became very powerful. Crassus was killed in a battle that was 53 BC. Um, and Pompey's wife, Julia, that was the daughter of Julius, died while she was giving birth. And she was really the cement of this alliance between Pompey and Julius. So Pompey feared Caesar's growing ambition and power, and he did something kind of genius from his viewpoint, but it was not that good for like Julius. He took the senators to his side and he was appointed sole consul of Rome. I told you that the consuls of Rome, they were always two people, so that no one of the two could take too much power. This was made as an emergency measure because Caesar was away. But I mean, he was the only one to rule. And so it's obvious that the triumvirate was dead. In 50 BC, the Senate of Rome did ask Julius to disband his army and to return to Rome as his term as governor of Gaul had finished. Julius was worried at this point. He could be prosecuted if he entered Rome without the immunity enjoyed by a magistrate. He could be prosecuted by Pompey and his supporters. So he tried to deal with the senators. He wrote many letters. But Pompey accused him of insubordination and treason. So on 10 February 49 BC, he crossed the Rubicon. The Rubicon is this river that was dividing the Italian territory, I mean, the land that was directly controlled by Rome from actually the provinces of Rome. And obviously what they call the Gallia now belongs to Rome. It's part of, sorry, not Rome, it belongs to Italy. I'm so sorry. I'm like Rome based, so Rome is always in my mind. And he tried, as I told you, to deal with the senators, but he had not other option than to return to Rome, you know, like to come back to Rome with his legions, and so armed. That's something that was outlawed. Upon doing it, Caesar is supposed to have quoted a Greek poet, Menander, speaking the famous phrase, the die is cast, that we still use, you know, when we have to say that, I mean, when it's done, that at this point there was no more return. So Pompey managed to escape from Rome, heading to Spain first. So Julius left Rome in the hands of Mark Antony, and he finally defeated Pompey in 48 BC at Pharsalus in Greece. But Mark Antony was not killed, and so he was actually leading to Egypt, and it happened that Pompey was asking for sanctuary in Egypt. He was sure it could be like hosted and protected by Egypt, because Pompey had helped Egypt a few years before, but this is not precisely what happened. Once he stepped out from his boat, he was beheaded by the supporters of the brother of Cleopatra, Ptolemy the 12th, was controlling Egypt with the queen Cleopatra. If you want to go a bit deeper into this subject, I do a talk about Cleopatra that is right about these like relationships that she had with Julius first and then Mark Antony, and you can obviously learn a bit more about this time of like Caesar's life that way. I mean, Julius pursued Pompey to Egypt, and it got stuck in the civil war between the pharaoh Ptolemy the 12th, the brother of Cleopatra, and his sister and co-regent Cleopatra. So like when Pompey fled to Egypt and sought refuge, he did not really expect this like cruel twist of fate. Some member of the Egyptian elite feared Julius. They knew that Julius was like already heading towards Egypt, and Pompey was beheaded as soon as he set foot on Egyptian soil. When Julius arrived in Egypt, he asked about Pompey, and when he found out that a Roman general had been really killed in a foreign land, he got mad. So the reaction that was expected by Ptolemy the 12th and these like advisors, it was a bit different. Julius was not happy at all. He was crying. This is what historians tell us. And he decided to take part of Cleopatra, and after a long war, she took command of Egypt. That's something, again, we go a bit deeper in this talk that's about Cleopatra. So you see, this is the time when Caesar arrived in Egypt, and he was delivered the head of Pompey on a silver plate, and supposedly he started to cry. So he was stuck in Egypt for a while, and this relationship between Cleopatra, the Egyptian queen, and Caesar started, and it went on for a while. You know, they met and they fell in love, and Cleopatra, she even had a son from Julius that was called the Caesarion, that means little Caesar. So I am so sorry to interrupt the talk, but this is something that is obviously super important for us. That is the links to tip the guide, that it happens to be me. I hope you will really love this talk. Anyway, I also want to thank all the people who did tip me before even joining me. So thank you also for the people who did join me yesterday in the St. Peter's tour. Thank you so much. This is so important. So if you want to take a screenshot, then obviously I will send you all the links that you need. Fine. I just do this. Let me give you the link. Thank you. I just opened the chat for a second so that you can tell me if you can hear me, if you can see the pictures, if you can see like the link. Thank you so much. I see yes. So I think it works for all of you. Thank you so much. Just to check if you can hear me and everything. Okay, I close the chat again. And let's get back to the subject, okay? Then he left Cleopatra in Egypt, and he had to like resume, you know, a war. I don't know why I cannot really see me. Sorry, guys, I couldn't see me, so I was actually... Okay, now it works. Sorry. Okay, fine. So I was here. Okay. So I was saying that actually he had to resume a war against the supporters of Pompey, who had reorganized in the meantime. They had reorganized in Ponto and Media, in Turkey and in Africa. And among those wars, I will mention the victory against the Parnesi, the second, the king of Ponto, king of like Turkey. That was so rapid that inspired the Caesar to say one of the most famous quotes that I am sure you have heard about, that is Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. That's something that, for example, we speak out in Italy when we obtain something obviously quickly, when we have a quick success. So when Caesar was back to Rome, that was 46 BC, he celebrated the 4 triumphs, so like 4 parades, like citywide parties that this was the highest honor a military commander would like receive from the senators. So one triumph, one march was to celebrate the war over Gaul, so like France, one over Parnesi, so that war that was so rapid, one over the Africans and the King Juba, and one over Egypt. That gave him a lot of like power. That gave him a lot of like approval of the people. And I mean, he was back from Alexandria, he was back from Egypt, and it's when Caesar planned to build a vast public library for the Roman people, and a museum and a theater. He even planned to change the course of the Tiber, I mean the river of Rome, to stop the floods that crashed into the city almost every winter. None of these plans survived him, but before he died, like anyway, Caesar remade the heart of Rome into like his own image, as we will see. Anyway, now we talk about the city center of Rome. So we are back, you know, to the ancient Roman Forum, and this is what it looks like, or at least this is a reconstruction of what it did look like. And this is the so-called Via Sacra. So it's this road that was used by the winners, by the generals who came back from the seaside, that is this direction of like Rome, and they arranged this parade that went through the triumphal arches of Rome. The arches that you see in Rome, they have been built after Julius, but I mean, he did almost this walk, you know, from the Circus Maximus to the downtown of Rome, taking back everything he had obtained in these like faraway lands. It was the first time Rome saw a giraffe. And this is something that really shocked the people, you know, how they called this animal they have never seen before, camel leopard, because they didn't even have a term to define this animal that was so weird. So they called it camel because of the size, and leopard because of the spots. That's how we know that they have seen a giraffe. this is the road that you can still use, when you get into the forum. You can really use the same cobblestones the ancient Roman generals, they did walk over. And the final step was to climb the Capitoline Hill. That was to sacrifice animals to the most important gods of Rome. That's Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. And that's the end of this long march, of this like long procession, So as I told you, see, this is the reconstruction of this like long way, all the way up to this temple of Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. So let's talk about Alexandria. For sure, Julius was shocked by these people, he was like seriously shocked. These people who lived in Egypt, the same as like the city, was so new, brand new. It had been built by Alexander the Great in 331 BC. Population was 325,000 people. It was like made of big roads and with the library and museum and multiple ports and canals. And once Julius was back to Rome, he said, "Oh gosh, this city is so old. That's nothing that goes like well in here. Let's make Rome into an eternal city. Let's make Rome appear like Alexandria of Egypt." Because I mean, honestly, Rome was such a small village back then. It was not the city that will become during the ancient Roman Empire. And when he was back to Rome, Cleopatra reached him out, and he was actually staying in Rome. And I told you that she took with her many intellectuals from Egypt, and among them there was also this astronomer who suggested to Julius to change the calendar. The first calendar of Rome was based on lunar phases and counted 354 days, and Julius took the new calendar that is 365 days plus the 6 hours to Rome, and that's the calendar that we still use today. And because of this change, a month was named after his name. And this is what we did discuss about before. And then he actually really remade the heart of Rome into his own image. How he built his own forum beside the most ancient one, and he placed inside it a temple that proclaimed him descendant of the gods, like descendant of Venus. First reason to have a new forum close to the ancient one, built, was practical. I mean, the Republican forum was small and an additional space was needed, but the real reason was political. The public space was going to be used by people, and Caesar wanted to show his benevolence and generosity to the people of Rome. The project was immensely expensive. At the time when a man commonly made less than 100 silver coins, in 1 year, Caesar supposedly spent more than 100 million sesterzi, so 100 million silver coins just to buy the land. I'm not even thinking of the plants and the constructions. I'm just mentioning the price for the land. He could afford it thanks to the fortune he had collected in Gaul, so in France. And during the civil war against Pompey, Caesar vowed to build a temple for Venus if he defeated his great rival, and he made it, he did it. So let's describe what you can see here once you come to Rome. This is the reconstruction of what it looked like. You see that it's very close to the ancient Roman Forum, and so to this sacred road that the soldiers, they did march on the way back from victories. This is what remains of the temple of Venus. The most remarkable aspect of the temple was its dedication, not just to the goddess Venus in general, but to Venus Genetrix. That means Venus, the mother. This title was a Caesar's invention. His intention was to remind the Roman people his family was descending from the goddess. And implication was that Caesar himself was more than mortal. Can you imagine the big change in terms of like images of power? I mean, Caesar had experienced Egypt. And you know, because you can follow so many talks about Egypt with us, that the pharaohs of Egypt, they were kings, like, sorry, they were gods, you know, and when they were like still alive, and once they died. So that was actually a very big change. This forum was dedicated on September 26, that was 46 BC, and that was the final day of this like quadruple triumph, when Caesar arranged naval battles with an army of 3,000 men, all prisoners of war went to death. I mean, that was an extraordinary spectacle. And since the dedication ceremony was held in the evening, Caesar stationed 43 elephants with massive lamps to light the forum over the shoulder, to light the displays and nearby streets. So Caesar placed the treasures in the Temple of Venus, which included antique paintings from Greek painters, dozens of like rare gems, and helmets decorated with hundreds of British pearls. And the open plaza, like the square, was dominated by the statue of Caesar riding a horse. We can just reconstruct it because the statue is gone. And since 47 BC, while he was in Egypt, he was facing his enemies, and he was entitled dictator for 10 years, like repeatedly. He was appointed the consul multiple times, till in February 44 BC, he was appointed dictator in perpetuity. And now we come to this last chapter of like Julius' life. Let's have a look at the reconstruction of the temple before we go on. These are the three columns that still remains, and they belong to one of like the long sides of this place that was dedicated to Venus, the goddess of beauty, as mother of Julius. That was actually so exceptional and so strong as a message in Rome. Think that, for example, during a festival in Rome known as the Lupercalia, Mark Antony tried to crown Caesar's head with a diadem. The gesture was supposed to be a joke, but it was read as an insult. Even if Julius tried to remove quickly the crown from his head, people, they started to think that Julius was taking too much power, that he was trying to make himself into like a sort of divine version of himself, and he was trying to transform Rome from a republic into an empire. And what I didn't tell you is that inside this temple, there was also a statue of Cleopatra, and she was worshipped as a goddess in this place. I mean, an Egyptian queen, she was worshipped as a goddess in the temple of a Roman deity. Can you imagine how strong that was? And so we come to the Ides of March. This is actually the episode when Mark Antony was trying to crown Caesar, but Caesar refused, this like crown. That was not enough, because people, they started to like think that he was trying to make himself into a new king. Okay, he was actually living right in the middle of the forum when he was killed. But before I tell you about it, let's look at this area that is called the Trastevere in Rome. Trastevere is a very nice neighborhood. We go to, for example, for dinner. It's a very popular area. You find the best restaurants in that part. And Cleopatra, she was stationed in these gardens that Caesar owned across the Tiber. Now, Cleopatra, she couldn't really be with Julius in the house right in the middle of the ancient Roman Forum because Julius was living in that place with the wife, Calpurnia. So she was confined in this property that was just across the Tiber. And it's right here, while the Forum is this area. This is the Colosseum, correct? So it's pretty distant from that place. Calpurnia was the last wife of Julius, and she was sleeping in the house of Julius the night when Julius had a nightmare, the night before the Ides of March, that's 44 BC, March the 15th, when he was killed by his enemies. The so-called liberators from trying to defend the republic against the dictatorship established by Julius. So Julius was not really killed in the ancient Roman Forum, as you might think, because the Senate House, that is this incredible structure, was work in progress at his age. So this is something that you can see pretty close to the Colosseum, but it was not the site where he died because it was not yet finished. The senators of Rome, they did reunite in an area that is a bit distant. It's close to the Pantheon. It's in a different site of Rome. But let's talk about the night before Caesar's murder. Caesar went to dine in the house of a friend named Marcus Lepidus, and over the course of the dinner, the conversation of the guests turned to the question, what could be the best death that a person could desire? And Caesar was the first to respond, an unexpected one. And he was back home in the Forum. And as you remember, he had been elected the Pontifex Maximus when he was in his 40s. And so his house was like here. It was right in the middle, of this place. But he was actually killed pretty far away from here, right where you had the marker close to the Pantheon. The title of Pontifex Maximus gave him the privilege to live close to the house of the Vestal Virgins. That same night, the night before the assassination of Julius, his wife, Calpurnia, she had a nightmare of having the husband dead in the arms. And the next morning, Calpurnia begged Caesar to stay home. It's always better to listen to your wife, remember. He had a bad suspicion himself. And he said, no, I'm not going. I had a bad night. I will stay home. At first, he did listen to her, but he was convinced by one of the friends of him who was sent by the assassins of Julius. The assassins, they had to hurry up because Julius was going to leave Rome in 3 days. And so the murder had to be arranged quickly. And so they sent one of the best friends of Julius to convince him it was better. He was going to the Senate, to this temporary Senate himself, to say that the reunion was suspended for that day. When the assassins, they got the confirmation that Julius was going, everything happened. Caesar made his way to the Senate, to this temporary area where the senators, they've united. He was living here, so he very likely took this road. He went this way. He did the turn all around the Capitoline Hill, and then he stepped into this area that is just the entrance to the Theater of Pompey. That is this, place you cannot really see in Rome, but you can at least relocate. Caesar made his way to the Senate, and on his way, he met the same priest who had warned him before. The day before, he had met this priest, Spurina was his name, who told him, be aware of the Ides of March. And once he met him again, he said, see, the Ides of March came and I am alive. And the response of the priest was, yeah, but they're not over yet. And this is the sacred area of Piazza Argentina, where we can relocate the entrance to the theater. Sadly, the exact place where everything happened is under this road that we still use to go to the city center. So it's something that we cannot really remove in order to find the exact spot of the assassination of Julius. So we know it's here, but we cannot really get down, to the ruins to see it because it's really covered by the road that we drive in. But this sacred area is a place that still has the columns that Julius saw, that day he was going to this Senate, to this like entrance to the theater. So the columns you see, they belong to temples that have been built even before Julius was born. In other words, these are same columns and temples that Caesar saw these last hours of his life. Accompanied by Mark Antony, he was heading the theater of Pompey the Great, and the entrance to the theater is behind the columns. The conspirators waited for Mark Antony just outside the Senate, and with like an excuse, he was pulled away. He was like kept out, and Julius stepped into the Curia alone. What is fascinating is that the only thing that you can see today of this like ancient entrance to the theater is what remains of a toilet. And so you might wonder, why a toilet in the place of a theater? Because this place where Julius was killed was sort of cancelled from the memory of Rome, and it was replaced with toilets. And this is what the ancient Roman toilets, they did look like, long benches with many holes where the people, they were sitting all together, cheek to cheek, with not that privacy, not that much space in between them. So in Rome, you can still stay inside the theater of Pompey the Great. Its semicircular exterior wall can be seen in the curvature of like few buildings. This is Rome, as you might see it from the sky, and you can really tell that the new structures, the houses where people live, they have been built above the theater of Pompey. So this is the road that I did show you before in this like picture, this one here. And you see, it's just here by the entrance to the theater, that Julius was assassinated. So as I told you, it's like under the road. Anyway, as in many places in the historic center, it's possible to trace the outlines of the ancient city, as its ruins are incorporated into the modern city itself. Lasagna, remember, it's what I told you before, okay? So you can imagine the panic that ripped in the city of Rome when Julius died. Mark Antony, he was no longer sure of like his position. Mark Antony was the general of Julius, went for an unexpected solution. He made a deal with Brutus and Cassius, the assassins of Julius that day. They were not prosecuted for the murder of Julius in exchange for Caesar's receiving funeral rights. Antony stood on the ancient rostra. This is what the theater, it did look like. And this is the assassination. Julius was stabbed 23 times, like 23 times. So Mark Antony, I was saying, stood on the ancient rostra, and he looked down upon the body of Caesar placed over a couch. And like hanging over the body was a wax effigy of Caesar with these like 23 bloody step wounds in the statue. And this is precisely where Mark Antony delivered his speech. Again, we are back, to the downtown of Rome. You can really see this platform that was used by the politicians for convincing people to vote for them. Mark Antony was reminding to the people all that Caesar had made for them, all the money he had brought, and he was reading Caesar's will, letting people know that Caesar not only had donated land to the people of Rome, but he also had left money to every single person of Rome. People did turn crazy. The body was carried in the center of the Roman Forum, and a funeral pyre was set up. People started to throw benches and furniture that they took from home, even clothing on Caesar Pier, causing the flame to spin out of control and seriously damaging everything that was around. It happened right here in this spot, and this is so fascinating. This is the famous speech that Mark Antony did, and in this will he was reading, he was very disappointed because while he was reading the testament of Julius, he found out that Julius he had adopted not him who had followed him in every campaign, but a very young boy who was only 17 years old. Nobody knew. His name was Octavian, and he will become Augustus. He will get this title a few years later, and we know him as the very first emperor of Rome, So we are back to the downtown of Rome, and now we have to look at what was built in the place of this pyre, of this fire that was arranged here. What you see nowadays when you come to the ruins, it's just a pile of rocks. People are commonly pretty much disappointed from what remains of this place, but you have to think of how important this site it was. Again, this area was not really for funerals. This place was for shopping and politics and religion. So it's weird that a person was cremated in front of the people of Rome, right in the middle of everything. This is what the pyre that did look like, and this is what you can see today. Once the flames were over, just an inscription was left in this spot with this phrase that was Father of the Nation. And then in 27 BC, Augustus came and he had defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, who came to be his enemies in the Battle of Actium. That's 31 BC. Augustus was alone, the only one in charge, and he had this genius idea to be back to this place that was the site of the pyre of Julius, and he made Julius into a god. That's something that Julius himself started claiming was descending from Venus, but now the process was complete. He built a temple for the divine Julius Caesar right in the spot of the cremation. The urn with the ashes of Julius was kept inside this niche, and Augustus was forced to block the entrance to this place with the wall that you see, these brown blocks, because the line of people taking offerings to this new god of Rome was so long that just to avoid congestions, he had to close it, to barricade it. But I mean, he was such a genius. It's obvious that he was doing such a thing. He was deifying Julius to prepare his deification, because he was the adopted son of Julius, and if he was the son of a god, he was automatically a demigod, and Augustus will be one of the gods of Rome once he will die. And so everything did look like this. Now you see only the lower part of the temple. They had columns at the top of this podium that have been stolen or recycled, as we say. I mean, they're gone. Same as the urn that was in the niche is gone. But you can still see people taking flowers and coins to this place. This is a picture that I took a few days ago. It's mostly schools, like kids who do this, and it's what ancient citizens they did. And trust me that this was not enough. I mean, the way we can reconstruct the Temple of Julius is thanks to these coins that were commonly issued once something important was finished in Rome, to let people living far away from the capital what these monuments they did look like. So think of limited edition coins that let people from France or Spain know that the Temple of Julius did look like this. Can you notice a star right at the top? Once Julius died, big celebrations went on for months. And on this occasion, for 7 days, a star appeared in the sky. And this like astronomical phenomenon was interpreted by Augustus, by Octavian, as if that star was Julius, who appeared in the sky as like a comet, and he was back so in the shape of a god. So this temple right in the middle of the forum was for Julius, who was worshipped as a god and as a star of Rome. This was such a big change. It's precisely when this temple was built by Augustus in 27 BC, the Republic in Rome was over, and a new system of government it was starting, and it's what we call the ancient Roman Empire. Now, guys, I come back to you. I give you the chance to write me something again. Sorry if I did silence the chat. It's only that this way people they're not like disturbed from what I am saying. I hope you are still there. And now I will cut time for like Q&A. I hope you did like it. Can you just write it? Thank you so much. Now, just to know if you are still alive. Thank you for your nice words. Ooh, thank you, thank you. It's actually, these are sites that you can really explore in Rome. What was the, sorry, I have a question. What was the main reason that Julius was stabbed and by whom? Julius was actually stabbed because, as I was trying to explain you, once he was back from these many expeditions, from these like many wars, he had to like gain against the supporters of Pompey. He got proclaimed the first consul for like multiple times, and then dictator for more than 1 year, you know, like in sequence, till he got proclaimed dictator in perpetuity. And that's something that actually was not accepted in the Republican age in Rome, even if it had happened before with Sulla and Pompey. You know, we did learn that Sulla was like proclaimed the dictator without specifying the duration of his term, and Pompey made him into the sole consul of Rome. But actually, that's something that with Julius was not really accepted. And so the senators of Rome, the supporters of the aristocracy in Rome, they thought that this power Julius gained could limit the power they got. And that's why he was assassinated. And also because of the many things he did to proclaim he was descending from a goddess, to make Cleopatra into a goddess. She was worshipped into that temple that I did show you for these like many things, for this behavior that he had that was closer to the behavior of like Egyptian pharaohs and like Eastern kings than of like Roman governors. Okay. Kennerlich, I am for sure really like I'm reading this name wrong. Kennerlich. You might do a tour with me in Rome. If you will be in Rome, you can write an email to world virtual tours, and we can arrange tours with you, so we can see those like sites in person. They're very close each other, so we can be on Caesar's footstep for real in the ancient city of Rome. What happened to his early wife, Cornelia? Cornelia, she died for a sort of like infection. Apparently, she was like one of the women he truly loved. Cornelia and like Servilia. Servilia, she was the lover of Julius, who married multiple times, as we have seen. And she was the mother of Brutus. Brutus and Cassius are the most famous names among the assassins of Julius. You know, it was like a team of people, but Brutus and Cassius, they were like the leaders. You